Human screams of agony echoed through the Galactic Council's torture chamber as the sadistic alien interrogator injected painful neurotoxin into the 8-year-old child's spine, not knowing humanity was about to unleash a storm of vengeance that would make the Council regret ever being born. Louis Simpson, a grizzled 35-year-old ex-Navy SEAL turned mercenary, sat in a dingy New York bar sipping whiskey. His old friend Colonel Jack Thompson slid into the booth across from him. The smoke-filled air seemed to crackle with tension. "Louis, the Galactic Council has gone too far this time. They captured a human child, Max Bennett, from the Kepler 452b expedition. Killed his parents, too. Now they're torturing the poor kid to get intel on Earth's defenses," Jack said, his voice hard. "We need someone to get him back, someone like you, on—" Louis's grip tightened on his glass. Memories of his best friend murdered by the Council's Nausicaan pirate lackeys flooded back. "I'll make them pay, Jack. Every last one of them." "It's a suicide mission, Louis. Their headquarters is a fortress, and the Nausicaans, you know how brutal they are." Louis smiled coldly. "They haven't met me yet. I'll show them what brutal really means." As he strode out into the New York night, Louis knew humanity's fate hung in the balance. If he failed, the Council would break the child and learn everything. Earth would burn. Billions would die in agony. But Louis would not, could not, fail. The Council had tortured their last innocent. When humanity's vengeful pet wolves were done, nothing would remain of their pathetic empire but ashes and screams. Louis gathered his team in a secret UEF safehouse on Earth. He looked around the room, his eyes meeting those of each elite mercenary he handpicked for this mission. There was Jax, the 28-year-old tech genius, his fingers always dancing across a keyboard, ready to hack into any system. Raven, the 32-year-old sniper, her eyes sharp and focused, able to infiltrate any location undetected. Brick, the 40-year-old demolitions expert, his muscular frame hinting at his proficiency with heavy weapons. And the twins, Scorpion and Viper, 26 years old, their lean bodies coiled with the tension of predators waiting to strike in close-quarters combat. "Listen up," Louis said, his voice commanding attention. "The Galactic Council has a human child, Max Bennett. They're torturing him for information on Earth's defenses. Our job is to get him back and make the Council pay." He tapped a button, and a hologram of the Council's headquarters appeared. "We'll be using a stolen Nausicaan ship to infiltrate the facility. Once inside, we locate the kid, gather any intel we can, and then we blow the place to hell. Send a message they won't forget." The team nodded, their expressions hardening with determination. They had all lost someone to the Nausicaans, and the chance for revenge burned in their veins. As they prepared their gear, Louis's communicator beeped. He frowned at the encrypted message, his instincts warning him of a trap. But the promise of vital information about the Council's plans was too tempting to ignore. "Change of plans," he announced. "We've got a lead on the Council's true intentions. We're heading to the Omega Centauri system first. Might give us an edge." The team exchanged glances but didn't question him. They trusted Louis with their lives. As their ship exited hyperspace at the coordinates, a dozen Nausicaan warships decloaked around them, weapons locked on. A familiar face appeared on the view screen. "Surrender, human," Solaris demanded, his scarred face twisting into a cruel smile. "Did you really think we'd let you walk into our headquarters unopposed? Thanks for leading your team to their deaths." Plasma cannons heated up, targeting their ship. Louis's mind raced, desperately searching for a way out of the trap he had led them into. The Nausicaans opened fire, the first volley slamming into their shields. Alarms blared as the ship shuddered under the onslaught. Louis gripped the controls, his knuckles white as he fought to evade the incoming barrage. With their ship in ruins, Louis and his team had no choice but to surrender as the Nausicaans boarded, training energy rifles on them. As Solaris strode onto the bridge, the scarred alien commander grabbed Louis by the collar, his face inches from the humans. "Did you really think it would be that easy, human?" Solaris snarled. "Your pathetic species will soon be nothing but a memory." As the Nausicans hauled them away in restraints, Louis noticed a strange device on Solaris's wrist, a fusion of advanced technology and what looked like living tissue. In the detention block, Solaris couldn't resist gloating as he paced in front of the captured humans. "You're even more foolish than I thought," he said, holding up his wrist. "This is the key to your species' downfall, a bioweapon designed to target and eradicate humans, developed by the Galactic Council itself." Louis's eyes widened in shock as Solaris continued, relishing the revelation. "The Council has seen your kind as a threat for years. This bioweapon will cleanse the galaxy of your filth. And that child you sought to rescue, his torture was merely a test of its effectiveness." Rage boiled in Louis's veins, but before he could respond, an explosion shook the ship. Alarms blared as rapid-fire energy blasts echoed through the corridors. The door to the detention block burst open, revealing a squad of heavily armed robot warriors, their sleek, advanced designs unlike anything Louis had ever seen. The robots made short work of the Nausicaan guards, their precision and firepower far surpassing the aliens' capabilities. As the smoke cleared, one of the robots approached Louis, its voice a synthesized baritone. "Commander Simpson, we are the Olympus Protocol. We were created by Dr. Elias Holm to protect humanity from extraterrestrial threats. We intercepted your mission communique and are here to assist." As the robots freed Louis and his team, the leader continued. "Dr. Holm discovered the Council's plan years ago and has been working to counter it. With your help, we can expose their plot and save your species." Louis nodded grimly, his resolve hardened by the newfound allies and the revelation of the Council's true intentions. "Then let's get to work. We have a kid to save and a galaxy to wake up." As they regrouped and rearmed with the robots' advanced weaponry, Louis and his team, now bolstered by the Olympus Protocol, began planning their infiltration of the Galactic Council's headquarters. The odds were still against them, but with the robots' help and the knowledge of the Council's sinister bioweapon, they had a fighting chance to rescue Max and expose the truth to the galaxy. The Nausicaan ship shuddered as it entered hyperspace, carrying them towards their final confrontation with the Galactic Council. In the dim light of the cargo hold, Louis looked at each member of his team, their faces etched with determination. They had come too far to fail now. The fate of humanity rested on their shoulders, and they would not let their species fall to the Council's twisted machinations. As the stolen Nausicaan ship docked in the Council's headquarters, Louis and his team exchanged glances. This was it. The Olympus Protocol robots stood at attention, ready for orders. Louis spoke, his voice steady. "All right, we split into 2 teams. Jax, Raven, you're with me. We're going after Max. Brick, take Scorpion, Viper, and half the bots. Find their labs, grab any data you can, and blow the place." The teams separated. Louis led his group through winding corridors, following Jax's scans of the detention block. Suddenly, plasma fire erupted around them. The Council's security forces had found them. Insectoid Clickis warriors charged, firing razor shards. Reptilian saurians lunged with electrified blades. Louis dove into cover, his pulse rifle responding with deadly precision. Raven unslung her sniper rifle, picking off targets with brutal efficiency. The robots surged forward, their armor deflecting enemy fire as they cut down the alien forces. Louis sprinted toward a saurian, ducking under its blade and slamming an armored fist into its scaled jaw. The alien crumpled. Louis snatched its blade, spinning to decapitate a Clickis warrior. "Louis!" Jax shouted over the chaos. "The cell block is up ahead." Louis pointed to the robots. "Cover our advance." The machines obeyed, forming a wall of metal and firepower. In the underground labs, Brick and his team stared in horror. Human bodies, mutilated and dissected, floated in tanks. Experiments on other species lay strapped to tables, implants wired into their flesh. Viper downloaded data from the terminals while Scorpion planted charges. The robots stood guard, sensors alert. Brick turned away from an examination table, his eyes hard. "Let's send this abomination straight to hell." As Louis's team neared the cell block, a hail of plasma bolts forced them to take cover. Krull strode forward, flanked by heavily armed Nausicans. Did you really think it would be that easy, human? The alien sneered. Lewis and Jax charged, ducking and weaving through the plasma fire. Raven lined up her shots, Nausicaan guards dropping with each crack of her rifle. Krull fired at Louis, the human barely evading the searing plasma. Louis closed the distance, slamming into the Nausicaan. They grappled, Louis driving an elbow into Krull's throat. The alien staggered back, drawing a vicious-looking blade. Louis unsheathed his combat knife, the two clashing in a whirlwind of slashes and parries. Krull's blade sliced across Louis's arm. Louis gritted his teeth, slamming his knife's pommel into the Nausicaan's skull. Krull dropped, and Louis pounced, the knife at the alien's throat. "Where's the kid?" Louis growled. Krull spat, his black blood splattering Louis's face. "Cell 626, but you're too late, human. He's more experiment than child now." Louis's blade flashed, silencing Krull forever. He stood, ignoring the pain from his wounds. "Jax, get that cell open!" The hacker worked frantically, his fingers flying across the keypad. The door hissed open. Inside, Max lay strapped to an operating table, his small body covered in surgical scars and implants. His eyes, once bright with innocence, stared blankly at the ceiling. Louis approached, his heart heavy. He gently lifted the child, cradling Max's frail form in his arms. "I've got you, kid," Louis whispered. "I've got you. You're safe now." But as he looked down at Max's broken body, Louis knew that the child's ordeal was far from over. The horrors inflicted upon him would leave scars that might never heal. Rage and sorrow warred within Louis as he carried Max out of that hellish place. The Council would pay for what they had done. Humanity would make sure of that. Louis charged out of the cell block, Max's frail body clutched tightly in his arms. His team and the Olympus Protocol robots formed a protective perimeter around them, pulse rifles at the ready. They moved swiftly through the corridors, their footsteps echoing off the metallic walls. Suddenly a bone-chilling roar reverberated through the complex. A massive, grotesque creature lumbered into view, blocking their path. It was a nightmarish amalgamation of various alien species, its armored hide glistening with slime. Razor-sharp claws extended from its bulging forearms, and its maw dripped with corrosive saliva. Louis's eyes widened in horror. The Galactic Council's twisted experiments had birthed an abomination. He glanced down at Max's unconscious form, his jaw tightening. He had to get the kid out of here. "Raven, Jax," Louis barked. "Take Max and get to the extraction point. We'll handle this." The sniper and hacker nodded, Raven gently taking Max from Louis's arms. They sprinted down a side corridor, the robots covering their retreat. Louis turned to face the beast, unsheathing his plasma blades. The creature lunged, its claws slashing through the air. Louis ducked and rolled, the razor-sharp talons missing him by inches. The robots opened fire, their advanced weaponry peppering the beast's hide. It roared in pain and anger, swatting the machines aside like toys. Louis circled the creature, searching for a weakness. Its armor seemed impenetrable, deflecting even the robot's high-powered shots. An idea formed in his mind. He sprinted towards a narrow corridor, the beast lumbering after him. The robots flanked the creature, keeping it focused on Louis. As they entered the tight space, the beast's movements became restricted. It thrashed and snarled, its bulk hindering its mobility. "Focus fire on its joints," Louis commanded. The robots unleashed a barrage of plasma bolts, targeting the creature's limbs. The concentrated fire began to weaken its armor, cracks appearing in the hardened shell. Louis seized his chance. He primed a plasma grenade and launched himself at the beast, ducking under a swipe of its claws. He slammed the grenade into a fracture in its chest plate and leaped back. The explosion rocked the corridor, the beast howling in agony as the plasma incinerated its flesh. It collapsed, its lifeless body blocking the passageway. Louis staggered to his feet, his armor scorched and battered. He turned to make his way back to his team when a familiar voice stopped him cold. Solaris stepped out from the shadows, a cruel smile on his face. In his hand he held a sleek, menacing device, the Council's prototype bioweapon. "You may have bested my pet, but you're too late," Solaris sneered. "The child was merely a test. Earth is our true target." He leveled the bioweapon at Louis, his finger tightening on the trigger. Louis tensed, preparing to dodge the inevitable shot. A plasma bolt seared through the air, striking Solaris's arm. The bioweapon clattered to the floor, its circuitry sparking and fusing. Solaris screamed in pain, clutching the smoking stump of his severed limb. Louis spun around, his eyes widening in shock. There, propped against a destroyed robot, was Max. The child held a plasma rifle, his small hands shaking from the effort. Tears streamed down his face, but his eyes held a fierce determination. Louis rushed to Max's side, gathering the boy in his arms. "It's okay, kid. You did good. You did real good." Max clung to Louis, his body racked with sobs. Louis held him tightly, murmuring words of comfort. Together they made their way to the extraction point, leaving the carnage of the Council's headquarters behind them. Brick and his team were waiting, the stolen Nausicaan ship prepped for departure. As they boarded the vessel, Louis looked down at Max, a mix of pride and sorrow in his heart. The child had endured horrors no one should ever face, but he had also shown incredible strength and courage. The ship lifted off, carrying them away from the nightmarish facility. Louis knew that their mission was far from over. The Council's plan for Earth had to be stopped, but for now they had struck a blow against the alien threat and rescued an innocent soul. And in that moment, as Max rested in his arms, Louis made a silent vow. He would protect this child no matter the cost. The Galactic Council had picked a fight with the wrong species. Humanity would rise, united and unbroken, to face the challenges ahead. As the stolen Nausicaan ship rocketed away from the Galactic Council's headquarters, Louis knelt beside Max, applying a regenerative salve to the boy's wounds. The child's eyes fluttered open, his face contorting in pain as he tried to sit up. "Easy there, kid," Louis said softly, gently pushing Max back down. "You're safe now, we got you." Louis's heart clenched at the sight of the boy's battered body. The scars and implants a testament to the Council's cruelty. He silently vowed to make them pay for every ounce of pain they had inflicted on this innocent child. The ship shuddered violently, jolting Louis from his thoughts. He turned to see Jax frantically manipulating the controls, his brow furrowed in concentration. "We've got company," Jax shouted over the blaring alarms. "A whole fleet of Council ships on our tail." Louis sprinted to the cockpit, his eyes widening at the sight of the pursuing vessels. Their sleek, angular hulls bristled with weapons, the Council's insignia emblazoned on their sides. "Raven twins, get on those guns," Louis barked, strapping himself into the co-pilot's seat. "Jax, give me everything this bucket's got." The team sprang into action, Raven and the twins manning the ship's weapons systems, while Jax coaxed more speed from the straining engines. Raven's voice crackled over the intercom, her tone tense but focused. "I've got a lock on the lead ship, firing now." A barrage of plasma bolts streaked from their ship's cannons, slamming into the Council vessel's shields. The enemy ship shuddered but remained in pursuit, returning fire with renewed intensity. Louis gritted his teeth as the ship rocked under the onslaught, sparks flying from overloaded consoles. "Jax, tell me you've got a plan." The hacker's fingers flew across the controls, his eyes locked on the readouts. "I'm trying to jam their targeting systems, buy us some time to jump to hyperspace, but their encryption is tough to crack." Missiles streaked past the viewport, the Council ships rapidly closing the gap. Louis watched in horror as one of the projectiles impacted their shields, the energy barrier flickering dangerously. Just as another volley of missiles hurtled towards them, Jax let out a triumphant shout. "Got it! Their targeting systems are offline." The missiles veered off course, exploding harmlessly in the void. Louis let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding, his heart pounding in his chest. "Punch it, Jax," he ordered, already plotting their hyperspace jump. But before Jax could engage the hyperdrive, a massive shape emerged from the starry expanse, blocking their path. Louis's blood ran cold as he recognized the imposing form of a Council warship, easily dwarfing their stolen vessel. Louis's mind raced, desperately searching for a way out of their predicament. They were outmatched and outgunned, the Titan's weapon systems already locking onto their ship. An idea formed in his mind, a desperate gamble that might just give them a chance. He turned to Brick, his voice urgent. "Brick, I need you and the robots to modify the hyperdrive. We're going to create an EMP to disable the Titan's systems." Brick's eyes widened, understanding the implications. "But Lewis, that'll knock out our systems too. We'll be dead in the water." Lewis nodded grimly. "I know, but it's our only shot. The UEF will be monitoring our position. They'll send a rescue team." He met each of his team members' gazes, seeing the determination and trust in their eyes. "We've come too far to fail now. For Max, for humanity. We finish this." As Brick and the robots set to work, Louis turned his attention back to the looming form of the Titan, his jaw set with resolve. They had struck a blow against the Council, exposed their sinister plot. Now, they just had to survive long enough to see it through. He glanced back at Max, the boy's face pale but his eyes shining with a flicker of hope. Louis silently promised him that he would be reunited with his family, that the sacrifices of his parents would not be in vain. The ship shuddered as the EMP generator came online, the hyperdrive thrumming with barely contained energy. Louis took a deep breath, his finger hovering over the activation switch. "Hold on tight," he said, his voice steady. "This is going to be one hell of a ride." With a final defiant glare at the Titan, Louis slammed his hand down on the switch. A blinding flash of light erupted from their ship, engulfing the Titan in a crackling web of energy. The warship's lights flickered and died, its systems shutting down one by one. But the pulse also washed over their own vessel, plunging them into darkness. The engines sputtered and died, leaving them drifting in the void. Louis, using the last of the ship's emergency power, broadcast a distress signal to the UEF, praying that they would receive it in time. As the team gathered in the dimly lit cargo hold, huddled around Max's still form, they knew that their mission had come at a great cost. But they also knew that they had given humanity a fighting chance, a glimmer of hope in the face of an implacable foe. And as they waited for rescue, battered but unbroken, they drew strength from the bonds they had forged in the crucible of battle. The war was far from over, but they had struck the first blow, and they would not rest until the Galactic Council's threat was nothing more than a bitter memory, consigned to the dustbin of history. As Louis and his battered team huddled in the darkened cargo hold of their crippled ship, the sudden clanging of metal on metal jolted them to full alert. Scorpion glanced out a viewport, his eyes widening. "Louis, we've got company! A squadron of Nausicaan raiders! Coming in fast!" Louis swore under his breath, his grip tightening on his plasma rifle. Zevok, Solaris's brother, he's come for vengeance. The Nausicaan ships, sleek and deadly, latched onto the team's vessel like hungry parasites. Armored Nausicaan warriors poured into the breach, their eyes gleaming with murderous intent. "Defensive positions," Louis barked, ducking behind a crate as a hail of plasma bolts sizzled overhead. "Jax, get that signal boosted. The rest of you hold the line." The twins sprang forward, their blades flashing as they engaged the Nausicaans in a whirlwind of steel. Brick and Raven laid down a withering barrage of covering fire, the air thick with the stench of ozone and seared flesh. Louis charged into the fray, his rifle spitting plasma as he fought his way towards the breach. Zevok strode through the smoke, his eyes locked on Louis. "Your pathetic crew killed my brother," he snarled, leveling his disruptor at Louis's chest. "Now I will repay that debt 100-fold." As Louis and Zevok clashed, Max huddled in a secure compartment, his heart pounding. Through the din of battle, he heard Zevok's taunting voice. "You think this is about your worthless species, human? The Council's ambition goes far beyond your pitiful Earth. With the bioweapon, we will bring the entire galaxy to heel." Max's eyes widened, the full scope of the Council's plan slamming into him like a physical blow. He glanced down at the small plasma pistol in his hand, taken from a fallen robot. He knew what he had to do. Steeling himself, Max burst from his hiding place, the pistol raised. "Hey, ugly!" he shouted, his voice cracking with fear and defiance. Zevok spun, his disruptor swinging towards the child. Lewis seized his chance, tackling the Nausicaan commander in a brutal grapple. Max fired, the plasma bolt searing past Zevok's head, momentarily disorienting him. It was all the opening Lewis needed. With a savage twist, he snapped the Nausicaan's neck, letting the lifeless body slump to the deck. But the victory was short-lived. More Nausicans poured through the breach, the tide of battle turning against the exhausted team. Lewis fell back, shielding Max with his body as the aliens closed in. Suddenly, a tremendous roar shook the ship, followed by a blinding barrage of plasma fire. The UEF fleet had arrived, Admiral Hawkins' flagship at the fore. The Nausicans scattered, cut down by the UEF's superior firepower. As the rescue shuttles docked, Louis sank to his knees, his strength spent. Max clung to him, the boy's small frame shaking with relief and residual fear. On board the UEF flagship, Louis faced Admiral Hawkins, his voice grim as he relayed the Council's sinister plan. Hawkins's face hardened, her eyes glinting with steely resolve. "They've gone too far," she said, her voice cold as space itself. "It's time we take the fight to them." She turned to her tactical officers, already issuing orders. "Prepare a strike force. We hit the Council's military installations hard and fast. We end this now." As the UEF fleet mobilized, Lewis looked down at Max, the boy's face etched with a mix of exhaustion and determination. They had won a crucial battle, but the war was far from over. The fate of not just Earth, but the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. And Lewis would be damned if he let the Council's twisted vision come to pass. He had a promise to keep, to a brave little boy who had already lost too much. The Council had sown the wind. Now they would reap the whirlwind. As the UEF fleet bombarded the Council's installations across the galaxy, Admiral Hawkins summoned Lewis and his team to the flagship's briefing room. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a sprawling industrial complex on a barren planet. "This is Zaxxon Prime," Hawkins said, her voice steely. "Our intel suggests it's the heart of the Council's bioweapon program. Your mission is to infiltrate the facility and destroy it, once and for all." Louis studied the schematics, his mind already racing with strategies. "We'll need a ship with advanced stealth capabilities," he said, glancing at Jax. Hawkins nodded. "The Phantom is already prepped and waiting. State-of-the-art cloaking tech, cutting-edge weapons systems. She's the best we've got." As the team prepared to depart, Max stepped forward, his eyes filled with determination. "I'm coming with you," he said, his voice steady. "I know those labs, the experiments they're running. You need me." Louis hesitated, the memory of Max's broken body still fresh in his mind. But as he looked into the boy's eyes, he saw a reflection of his own fierce resolve. "All right, kid, suit up!" The Phantom sliced through the void, its sleek black hull blending seamlessly with the stars. As they approached Zaxxon Prime, Jax's brow furrowed. "We've got a problem, boss. The planet's surrounded by an energy shield. Our cloak is useless." Louis leaned forward, studying the readouts. "That supply ship," he said, pointing to a blip on the screen. "If we can board it, hijack its transponder, we can slip past the shield undetected." The team sprang into action. Raven aimed a precision EMP burst, disabling the supply ship's engines. The Phantom glided alongside the crippled vessel, docking clamps locking into place. Lewis led the charge, his plasma rifle flaring as they stormed the ship's corridors. Nausicaan crew members fell before their onslaught, caught off guard by the sudden attack. In the chaos, a plasma bolt caught Brick in the shoulder, spinning him to the ground. Viper was at his side in an instant, applying a quick seal patch to the wound. "I'm fine," Brick growled, pushing himself to his feet. "Let's get that transponder." With Jax's expert hacking, they commandeered the supply ship's systems and glided through the energy shield. The Phantom nestled in its hold like a viper in a nest. As they landed on Zaxxon Prime's rocky surface, Louis could feel the weight of the mission bearing down on him. They were deep in enemy territory now, with no backup and no room for error. Guided by Max's intel and the data from their previous raids, they trekked across the barren landscape, the towering spires of the research facility looming on the horizon. Suddenly, a hail of plasma fire erupted from the rocks around them. Nausicaan soldiers, their bodies grotesquely muscled and their eyes glowing with an unnatural sheen, charged from their concealed positions. Louis dove for cover, his rifle already spitting death. But these were no ordinary soldiers. They shrugged off wounds that would have felled a lesser being, their enhanced physiology knitting flesh and bone back together before their eyes. Scorpion fell, a plasma bolt burning through his chest. Viper dragged his brother to safety, desperation etched on his face. Max, crouched behind a boulder, his eyes wide with terror, suddenly yelled out, "Louis, they're next, the implants!" Louis saw it then, the glint of metal at the base of each soldier's skull. He aimed, his rifle barking, and the nearest Nausicaan dropped, the implants sparking and sizzling. The tide turned, the team's fire now focused and deadly. One by one, the Nausicaan soldiers fell, their augmented bodies twitching and convulsing as their implants overloaded. As the last soldier fell, Louis turned to Max, his eyes wide with realization. "How did you know?" he asked, his voice hoarse from the smoke and dust. But even as they savored their hard-won victory, Louis knew that the true test still lay ahead. The facility loomed before them, a bastion of the Council's twisted ambition. And somewhere inside, he knew, waited the monsters who had torn Max's life apart, who threatened to do the same to countless others across the galaxy. With the genetically enhanced Nausicaan super soldiers lying broken at their feet, Louis and his team exchanged grim nods. They turned their attention to the looming research facility, its cold metal walls concealing untold horrors within. Louis checked his plasma rifle's charge, his jaw set with determination. "Breach it," he ordered, his voice hard as steel. Brick stepped forward, attaching a breach charge to the reinforced door. The team took cover, weapons at the ready. The charge detonated with a concussive blast, the door crumpling inward. Louis was first through the breach, rifle leveled, scanning for threats. The facility's interior was a labyrinth of sterile corridors and ominous laboratories. As they pushed deeper, the team encountered pockets of resistance, Council security forces, and robotic sentries. Plasma bolts crisscrossed the halls, the air thick with the stench of ozone and scorched metal. Raven took point, her sniper rifle cracking with deadly precision. Scorpion and Viper flowed through the chaos like lethal shadows, their blades finding gaps in the enemy's armor. Brick's heavy weapons roared, leaving devastation in their wake. But it was the laboratories that truly tested their resolve. Each room they breached unveiled fresh atrocities, each more horrifying than the last. Humans and aliens alike, subjected to grotesque experiments in the name of the Council's twisted ambitions. Jax accessed a terminal, his face pale as he scanned the data. "Louis, this is just the tip of the iceberg. The things they've done here—" Louis placed a hand on the hacker's shoulder, his eyes hard. "We'll make them pay, Jax, every last one of them." Louis growled, recognizing the voice from intel reports. "Dr. Zoral, I presume." A chuckle devoid of humor. "Indeed, you've caused quite a stir, but I'm afraid your little rebellion ends here." The team burst into the central chamber, weapons trained on the figure standing before them. Dr. Zoral, as Organian, regarded them with cold, calculating eyes. His lab coat was stained with substances best left unidentified. "You're too late," Zoral sneered. "The bioweapon you seek to destroy, merely a prototype. We've already begun mass production of a far more lethal variant. Soon the Council will have an army of genetically perfected soldiers, drawn from the conquered masses of a dozen worlds, and with it, the galaxy will be ours." Louis saw red, his finger tightening on the trigger, but Zoral was faster, a force field shimmering to life around him. "You want me, human? Come and get me." Louis charged, a roar of pure fury tearing from his throat. The force field shattered under his assault, and the two combatants collided in a whirlwind of blows. Zoral was augmented, his strength and speed far beyond human norms. But Louis had a lifetime of combat experience and an unbreakable will. As he grappled with Zorel, Lewis glimpsed his team rushing to sabotage the facility's reactor and destroy the bioweapon stockpiles. Explosions rocked the chamber, alarms blaring in warning. Zorel's eyes widened in panic. He shoved Lewis back, scrambling for a control panel. "Fools, you'll kill us all!" His clawed fingers stabbed at a button, a fail-safe mechanism activating. Vents opened in the ceiling, a sickly green mist beginning to pour into the room. Lewis's heart seized. The bioweapon released into the facility's atmosphere. Within minutes, it would flood the complex, killing everyone inside. And if it spread to the nearby populated worlds... Max, who had been watching the battle with wide, fearful eyes, suddenly darted forward. "I can stop it," he shouted, his voice high and thin. "The failsafe, I can override it manually, but I have to stay behind." Louis shook his head, anguish twisting his features. "No, Max, I can't let you do that. We'll find another way." But Max met his gaze, a calm acceptance in his young eyes. "There is no other way. You have to go, Louis. Finish what we started." Tears streaking his battle-scarred face, Louis pulled the boy into a fierce embrace. "I'm so proud of you, Max. Your parents would be proud. I swear I won't let your sacrifice be in vain." With a final agonized look, Louis led his team in a desperate race back to the Phantom. Behind them, the facility shook with the force of multiple detonations, the bioweapon labs going up in flames. As they cleared the blast radius, the research complex exploded in a blinding flash of light. Louis watched, his heart breaking, as the fireball consumed the last traces of the Council's vile experiments and the brave young soul who had given everything to stop them. In the silence that followed, Louis made a vow. Max's sacrifice would not be forgotten. The Council would pay for their crimes, and he would not rest until the galaxy was free from their tyranny, once and for all. As the Phantom touched down on Earth, Louis and his battered team emerged to a hero's welcome. UEF soldiers lined the landing pad, snapping crisp salutes as Admiral Hawkins strode forward to greet them. Representatives from dozens of alien species, the core of the newly formed Galactic Alliance, stood alongside the humans, their presence a testament to the unity forged in the face of the Council's tyranny. But even amidst the cheers and accolades, a somber undercurrent ran through the celebration. Max's absence was keenly felt, his sacrifice casting a long shadow over their triumph. Louis, his face a mask of stoic resolve, accepted the congratulations and condolences with equal grace, the weight of the boy's loss etched into every line of his battle-scarred visage. In the days that followed, as the Galactic Alliance began to mobilize for the final push against the Council's remaining strongholds, Louis found himself increasingly haunted by memories of Max. The boy's courage, his unwavering determination in the face of impossible odds, had left an indelible mark on the hardened soldier's soul. It was during one such moment of reflection that Dr. Elias Holmes sought him out. The scientist, his brilliant mind now fully dedicated to the Alliance's cause, had a revelation to share. "Commander Simpson," he said, his voice low and urgent, "there's something you need to know about Max." Louis, his curiosity piqued, followed home to a secluded laboratory. There, amidst the gleaming equipment and humming computer banks, the scientist revealed an astonishing truth. "Before the mission to Zaxxon Prime, I implanted a neural link in Max's brain, a contingency in case the worst should happen." Holmes' fingers danced across a console, bringing a complex schematic to life on the main display. "The link allowed me to upload Max's consciousness, his memories and personality, into a secure network moments before the facility's destruction. In essence, his mind lives on, preserved in digital form. Louis stared at the screen, his heart racing as the implications sank in. Holmes turned to face him, his expression a mix of excitement and trepidation. "I can bring him back, Commander. I can transfer his consciousness into a new, advanced Olympus protocol body. He can be with us again, fighting alongside us as we take on the Council." For a long moment Louis was silent, his mind reeling with the possibilities. To have Max back, to hear his voice and see his smile once more, it was a temptation almost too powerful to resist. But even as the desire surged within him, Lewis knew in his heart that it would be wrong. Max had made his choice, had sacrificed himself willingly for the greater good. To bring him back now, to rob his actions of their meaning and significance, would be to dishonor everything the boy had stood for. Holm nodded slowly, understanding etched into his features. He was an extraordinary boy, the scientist said softly. His courage, his selflessness, it humbles us all. Lewis clasped Holmes' shoulder, a gesture of gratitude and shared grief. We'll honor his memory by finishing what he started, by standing up to tyranny and oppression, no matter the odds. That's what Max would want. And so Louis threw himself into the preparations for the final assault, his team rallying around him with renewed determination. They trained relentlessly, honing their skills and studying every scrap of intelligence on the Council's defenses, all the while driven by the memory of the brave young boy who had given everything for their cause. When the attack finally came, Louis and his team were at the forefront, leading the charge as the full might of the Galactic Alliance descended upon the Council's last bastions of power. The battles were brutal and bloody, each hard-won victory coming at a steep cost in lives and resources. But with every world liberated, every slave freed from the Council's yoke, Louis could feel the tide turning. The Alliance's forces, united in purpose and resolve, gradually pushed back against the enemy's crumbling defenses, their advance inexorable and unyielding. At last, they stood before the gates of the Council's final stronghold, a towering citadel that seemed to pierce the very heavens. As the Alliance fleet rained fire upon the fortress's shields, Louis and his team fought their way inside, battling through waves of fanatical defenders. In the citadel's heart, they confronted Admiral Zorgax, the architect of the Council's atrocities. The Zorganian warlord, his eyes blazing with madness and desperation, met Louis's charge with a fury born of desperation, his blade a whirlwind of destruction. The duel was titanic, a clash of wills and ideals as much as a contest of martial skill. Louis, his every blow fueled by the memory of Max and all those who had fallen, pressed the attack with relentless determination, forcing Zorgax back step by bloody step. In the end, it was Louis who emerged victorious, his blade finding its mark in Zorgax's black heart. But as the warlord fell, his lifeblood pooling on the cold metal floor, he uttered a final, chilling revelation. "You think this is the end, human?" Zorgax rasped, his voice a guttering whisper. "You have no idea what's coming, the void. It hungers, it consumes, and it will not stop until all life is extinguished." Louis stared down at the dying Zorganian, a cold dread settling in the pit of his stomach. "What are you talking about? What is the void?" But Zorgax only laughed, a wet, gurgling sound that chilled Louis to the bone. "You'll find out soon enough, we all will." With those final cryptic words, the warlord breathed his last, leaving Louis to ponder the implications of his dying declaration. As he stood amidst the smoking ruins of the Council's empire, the cheers of victory ringing hollow in his ears, Louis knew that their struggle was far from over. A new threat loomed on the horizon, a darkness that threatened to consume all life in the galaxy. And as he gathered his team around him, their faces etched with the same grim determination that he felt in his own heart, Louis knew that they would have to be ready. For Max, for the countless billions who now looked to the Galactic Alliance for protection and hope, they would face this new challenge head-on. They would unravel the mystery of the void, and they would find a way to stop it, no matter the cost. The road ahead was uncertain, fraught with peril and the unknown. But with the strength of their unity, the determination forged in the crucible of their shared struggle, Louis and his team would press forward, ready to face whatever lay ahead. For in the memory of a brave young boy, and in defense of all life in the galaxy, they would never surrender, never back down. The fight was only just beginning. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.